Allen Iverson was 18 years old when he walked into the Georgetown University admissions office in 1994, wearing baggy jeans, Timberland boots, and cornrows that made every administrator in the room uncomfortable. As he sat in the waiting area, he could hear voices coming from behind closed doors, voices that would change his life forever. "This kid doesn't represent Georgetown values," said Dr. Margaret Thompson, the dean of admissions. "He's too street, too rough around the edges. Our alumni will never accept him." "But his test scores are impressive," replied another voice, "and John Thompson specifically requested him." "I don't care what Coach Thompson wants," Dr. Thompson shot back. "This is Georgetown University, not some community college. We have standards to maintain." Allen couldn't hear the exact words, but he felt the tension in the room. He'd been dealing with this kind of rejection his entire life, being judged by how he looked, how he talked, where he came from. But this time was different. This time someone was about to fight for him in a way that would change everything. Before we dive into one of the most controversial college recruitment stories in sports history, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to hear will shock you about how one of the greatest players in NBA history almost never got the chance to prove himself at the college level. Georgetown University in 1994 was one of the most prestigious academic institutions in America. Located in Washington, D.C., it was known for producing senators, diplomats, and Supreme Court justices. The basketball program, led by legendary coach John Thompson, was equally elite, having won a national championship in 1984 and consistently recruited the best players in the country. Allen Iverson was not what Georgetown typically recruited. He came from Hampton, Virginia, a city still reeling from the racial tensions of the early 1990s. He had recently been released from jail after a controversial conviction that had divided his community along racial lines. He spoke with a thick Virginia accent, wore his hair in cornrows, and carried himself with a swagger that made traditional academic administrators nervous. But John Thompson saw something different. He saw a young man who had been failed by the system, who had overcome more adversity than most adults would face in a lifetime, and who possessed a combination of athletic ability and mental toughness that couldn't be taught. The meeting that was about to take place would determine whether Allen Iverson got the chance to prove that being too street was actually his greatest strength. Allen Iverson's reputation preceded him to Georgetown, and it wasn't the kind of reputation that opened doors at elite universities. The Hampton bowling alley incident had made national news, painting Allen as a troubled teenager who had been involved in a racial brawl that ended in convictions and prison time. What the news reports didn't capture was the complexity of Allen's situation. He had been a model student-athlete before the incident, carrying a 3.8 GPA while starring in both football and basketball. He was being recruited by every major college program in the country. But one night at a bowling alley had changed everything. The conviction had been controversial from the start. Video evidence was unclear, witness testimony was contradictory, and many in the black community believed Allen had been scapegoated because of his high profile. But for Georgetown's admissions committee, the details didn't matter. What mattered was that Allen Iverson had a criminal record and a reputation that could damage the university's image. "We're not a reform school," Dr. Thompson had told her staff. "We're Georgetown University. We educate future leaders, not kids who can't stay out of trouble." But John Thompson had been watching Allen's case closely. He had seen the inconsistencies in the prosecution, the racial undertones of the media coverage, and most importantly, he had seen Allen's character during the crisis. While other 18-year-olds might have been broken by the experience, Allen had maintained his dignity, his focus, and his determination to prove his innocence. Thompson knew that talent like Allen's was rare, but character like his was even rarer. He was determined to give Allen the chance that the system had tried to deny him. The story you're about to hear gets even more incredible, and I don't want you to miss any of the shocking details about how Allen Iverson fought against an entire system that tried to keep him down. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell right now so you never miss these inspiring stories of athletes who overcame impossible odds. We're building a community of people who believe that your background doesn't determine your future, and every subscriber helps us share these powerful stories with more people who need to hear them. Trust me, what happens next in Allen's story will completely change how you think about second chances and the power of having someone believe in you when no one else will. The Georgetown Admissions Committee meeting took place on a cold February morning in 1994. Dr. Margaret Thompson and 3 other officers sat across from John Thompson, who had requested to attend. "This young man has a criminal record," Dr. Thompson began. "He doesn't align with our institutional values, and frankly, I'm not sure he would fit in with our student body." John Thompson listened as the concerns were raised. Allen's appearance, his speech patterns, his background, everything was dissected, but Thompson knew what they really meant. "You're uncomfortable with Allen because he's different," Thompson finally said. "Because he doesn't look like the typical Georgetown student. Because he's black, he's from the projects, and he doesn't speak like he went to prep school." The room fell silent. This university was built on academic excellence and social justice. We claim to want diversity, but when real diversity walks through our doors, we find reasons to turn it away. Dr. Thompson shifted uncomfortably. "It's not about race, it's about standards, about maintaining our reputation." "And what exactly is that reputation?" Thompson shot back. "That we only educate privileged kids? Allen Iverson has overcome more in 18 years than most of our students will face in their entire lives." Before we continue with this incredible confrontation, I want you to drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever been judged unfairly because of where you came from or how you looked? Allen's story is about to prove that sometimes the people who face the most doubt are the ones who achieve the most success. John Thompson's reputation at Georgetown was impeccable. He had built the basketball program into a national powerhouse while maintaining high academic standards. But Thompson was also known for taking calculated risks on players others wouldn't touch. "I'm asking you to trust me," Thompson told the committee. "I've been coaching for 20 years. I know character when I see it, and Allen Iverson has more character than any recruit I've ever evaluated." Dr. Thompson remained skeptical. Character? He was just released from prison. "He was released because the governor reviewed his case and found problems with the conviction," Thompson replied. "This young man was railroaded by a system looking for someone to blame." Thompson pulled out Allen's academic records. "Look at these grades. Look at his test scores. This isn't some academic risk. This is a young man who has proven he can excel in the classroom while dealing with circumstances that would break most people." The room was quiet as they reviewed Allen's credentials. Despite everything, his grades were impressive. His SAT scores were well above Georgetown's average. "I'm not asking you to lower standards," Thompson continued. "I'm asking you to recognize that sometimes the most deserving students are the ones who have fought the hardest to get here." "Let's talk about practical concerns," said Dr. Richards. "How do we know he'll fit in here? How do we know our students will accept him?" Thompson had anticipated this. "Our students will learn more from Allen Iverson than from any textbook. He'll teach them about resilience, about overcoming adversity, about fighting for your dreams when the world is against you. But we have to consider the parents who pay tuition here, Dr. Thompson interjected. They expect their children to be surrounded by certain types of people. And what type of environment is that? Thompson asked. One where privileged kids never encounter anyone different? One where they graduate without understanding the real world? The debate continued for over an hour. Some worried about Alan's background, his appearance, his speech. Others concerned themselves with alumni reactions and media portrayal. But Thompson was relentless. This young man is going to be successful with or without Georgetown. The question is whether we want to be part of his success story or just another institution that failed to see his potential. After 3 hours of debate, the committee reached a decision. It wasn't unanimous, and it wasn't easy. Dr. Thompson had reservations, but she recognized that John Thompson had never steered the university wrong. "We're offering Alan Iverson admission," she announced, "but with conditions. He'll be monitored academically, mandatory study halls, regular meetings with advisors, and if there are any behavioral issues, any legal problems, he'll be dismissed immediately." Thompson nodded. "Fair enough, but remember this moment. Remember that you almost turned away one of the most remarkable young men I've ever met because he didn't look like what you expected." When Alan received the acceptance call, he was in his mother's living room, still dealing with legal aftermath. The news felt surreal. Georgetown University was giving him a chance when most had written him off. "I won't let you down, Coach Thompson," Alan said when he called to thank him. "Alan, you don't have to make me proud," Thompson replied. "You have to make yourself proud. You have to prove to yourself that you belong anywhere you want to be." Alan's first day at Georgetown was unlike anything he'd experienced. Walking across the historic campus, surrounded by Gothic architecture, he felt like he'd entered a different world. The other students stared, not with hostility but with curiosity and confusion. Alan's cornrows, baggy clothes, confident stride, everything stood out among polo shirts and boat shoes. He could hear whispers, feel eyes following him. "Is that the kid from the news? I heard he was in prison. What is he doing here?" Alan's roommate was Michael Chen, a pre-med student from Connecticut whose parents were doctors. The cultural divide was immediately apparent. "So, what's Hampton like?" Michael asked. "Different from this," Alan replied, looking around their room. Michael's side was perfectly organized with family photos and prep school memorabilia. Alan's had a few clothes, basketball shoes, and his mother's picture. The academic adjustment was challenging in unexpected ways. It wasn't that the work was difficult. His grades had always been good. It was the cultural expectations, the way professors expected students to speak, the background knowledge assumptions. In English class, the professor asked about summer experiences. One student discussed studying in France. Another described interning at their father's law firm. When Alan's turn came, he talked about working at a restaurant to help his mother pay bills. The room fell silent. Alan realized his life experiences were completely foreign to his classmates, just as theirs were to him. The basketball court was the one place where Alan felt completely comfortable at Georgetown. Here, his background didn't matter. His speech patterns didn't matter. His appearance didn't matter. What mattered was his ability to play basketball, and that was something no one could question. From his first practice, it was clear that Alan was unlike any player Georgetown had ever had. He was faster, more creative, more instinctive than anyone else on the court. But more than that, he played with an intensity and hunger that his teammates had never seen. "This kid is special," said Marcus Williams, a senior guard who had been skeptical about Allen's recruitment. "I've never seen anyone who wants to win as much as he does." John Thompson watched Allen's early practices with satisfaction. He had been right about Allen's character and ability, but he also knew that success on the basketball court would only be meaningful if Allen could succeed in the classroom and adjust to Georgetown's social environment. "How are you doing with everything else?" Thompson asked Allen after practice one day. "It's different, Coach," Allen replied honestly. "These kids come from a whole different world. Sometimes I feel like I'm speaking a foreign language." "That's not a weakness, Allen," Thompson said. "That's your strength. You've seen things they'll never see. You've overcome things they'll never have to overcome. Don't try to be like them. Make them learn from you." Allen's confidence grew as he dominated on the basketball court. In scrimmages, he was unstoppable. His crossover dribble left defenders stumbling. His speed in transition was unprecedented. His ability to score in traffic was remarkable. But Thompson knew that Allen's real test would come when the game started and the national spotlight turned to Georgetown. That's when Allen would have to prove that he belonged not just on the court, but in the Georgetown family. Despite his intelligence, Allen faced unique academic challenges. The writing style expected in papers was different from high school. Cultural references in literature were unfamiliar. Discussion-based classes required confidence in speaking that Allen was still developing. Dr. Patricia Williams, Allen's advisor, worked closely with him. She saw his struggles weren't about intelligence, they were about cultural adaptation. "You have excellent analytical skills," she told Allen, "but you're holding back in discussions. You're not sharing insights because you're worried about how you sound." "I don't want to sound stupid," Allen admitted. "These kids use words I've never heard. They talk about books and places I've never been to." "Allen, you have life experiences more valuable than any book they've read," Dr. Williams said. "When we discuss struggle, adversity, social justice, you're the only student who has actually lived those experiences." Slowly, Allen found his voice. When they discussed To Kill a Mockingbird, Allen's perspective on the justice system was informed by personal experience. When they studied urban sociology, Allen could describe inner-city realities that brought textbook theories to life. His professors began recognizing Allen's unique perspective. His papers, while sometimes unconventional in style, demonstrated critical thinking and insight that impressed instructors. "Mr. Iverson has a remarkable ability to connect academic concepts to real-world experiences," wrote Professor Morrison. "His contributions have enriched the learning experience for all students." Allen's first season at Georgetown was a revelation. John Thompson had built the team's offense around Allen's unique abilities, giving him the freedom to create plays that other point guards couldn't even imagine. Allen averaged 20.4 points and 4.5 assists per game, leading Georgetown to the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament. But it was more than just statistics. Allen had brought an energy and excitement to Georgetown basketball that hadn't been seen in years. His crossover dribble became legendary on college campuses. His fearless drives to the basket inspired teammates and intimidated opponents. The media attention was intense. Allen was featured on magazine covers, profiled in major newspapers, and interviewed on national television. Through it all, he maintained his dignity and represented Georgetown with class. "I'm grateful for the opportunity Coach Thompson gave me," Allen told reporters. "A lot of people thought I didn't belong here, but Georgetown believed in me when nobody else would." The transformation wasn't just athletic. Allen's grades improved throughout the semester. He formed friendships with teammates and classmates who had initially been skeptical of him. He began to see himself not as an outsider who had been allowed into Georgetown, but as a Georgetown student who belonged there. John Thompson watched Allen's development with pride. "He's not just becoming a better basketball player," Thompson told the media. "He's becoming a better student, a better person, a better leader. That's what education is supposed to do." The success on the court began to change perceptions around campus. Students who had initially avoided Allen now sought him out for conversations. Professors who had been skeptical began to see him as one of their most engaged students. By sophomore year, Allen had become more than Georgetown's star player. He had become a symbol of the university's commitment to diversity and social justice. His success opened doors for other students from non-traditional backgrounds. "Allen has changed this place," said Dr. Richards, who had initially opposed his admission. "He's shown our students that excellence comes in many forms. He's taught them that diversity isn't just different skin colors, it's different perspectives, experiences, ways of seeing the world." Allen's impact extended beyond Georgetown. His story inspired young people from similar backgrounds to believe elite education was possible. High school counselors used Allen's story as an example of how second chances could transform lives. "I get letters from kids all over the country," Allen said. "Kids who tell me they thought college wasn't for them until they saw what I was doing. That means more to me than any basketball award." The academic challenges that had seemed insurmountable during his first semester now felt manageable. Allen had found his rhythm, developing relationships with professors who appreciated his unique perspective. Professor Morrison, initially skeptical of Allen's admission, became one of his strongest advocates. "Allen has one of the most inquiring minds I've encountered in 20 years of teaching," he said. "He asks questions others would never think to ask because he's approaching subjects from completely different life experience." Allen's junior year at Georgetown was when he truly became a national phenomenon. He was averaging 25 points per game, leading Georgetown to the top of the national rankings and being discussed as a potential NBA lottery pick. But more than his basketball ability, it was his personality and story that captured the nation's attention. In interviews, Allen was articulate, thoughtful, and grateful for the opportunities he had been given. He spoke openly about his legal troubles, his time in jail, and how Georgetown had given him a second chance when others had written him off. "I'm not perfect," Allen said in a nationally televised interview. "I've made mistakes, but I've learned from them. Georgetown didn't just give me a chance to play basketball, they gave me a chance to become the person I was meant to be." The transformation was complete. The young man who had been dismissed as too street for Georgetown had become the face of the university's basketball program and a symbol of its values. Alumni who had initially questioned his admission now pointed to him as an example of Georgetown's commitment to social justice. "Allen represents everything we want Georgetown to be," said University President Dr. Leo O'Donovan. "He's academically excellent, socially conscious, and committed to using his platform to make a positive difference in the world." Allen's success had also vindicated John Thompson's belief in giving chances to students who might not fit the traditional mold. Thompson had always believed that diversity made his team stronger, but Allen's story proved that diversity could make the entire university stronger. "Allen didn't just succeed at Georgetown," Thompson said. "He made Georgetown better. He challenged everyone here, students, faculty, administrators, to examine their assumptions about what success looks like and where it comes from." After his junior year, Allen faced a crucial decision: stay at Georgetown for senior year or enter the NBA draft. The decision was complicated by his family's finances and his desire to complete his education. "I came to Georgetown to get my degree," Allen told John Thompson, But I also came here to prepare for the NBA. I think I've done both. Thompson supported Allen's decision to enter the draft. You've proven everything you need to prove here, he said. You've shown you can succeed at the highest academic level. You've shown you can be a leader. You've shown that people who said you were too street for Georgetown were wrong. Allen's final semester was bittersweet. He was excited about NBA prospects, but sad to leave the place that had become home. Georgetown had given him more than a basketball platform. It had given him confidence, education, and belonging he'd never experienced. His farewell speech to the Georgetown community was emotional. When I came here, people said I didn't belong, Allen said. But Coach Thompson and this university saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. Georgetown didn't just change my life, it saved my life. Draft experts were unanimous. Allen Iverson was a certain lottery pick, possibly first overall. The young man considered too street for college was now being hailed as the future of professional basketball. Allen Iverson was selected first overall by the Philadelphia 76ers in the 1996 NBA draft, becoming the highest drafted player in Georgetown history. But his impact on the university extended far beyond basketball. His success had opened doors for other students from non-traditional backgrounds. Georgetown's admissions policies evolved to consider broader life experiences and perspectives. The university became more diverse, inclusive, and committed to social justice. Allen changed the conversation about what it means to be a Georgetown student, said Dr. Margaret Thompson, who had initially opposed his admission. He showed us that excellence comes in many forms, and that our obligation as educators is to recognize and nurture potential wherever we find it. Allen's academic success had been as impressive as his athletic achievements. He graduated with a sociology degree, writing his senior thesis on racial bias in the criminal justice system. His professors described him as one of the most intellectually curious students they'd ever taught. John Thompson's gamble had paid off beyond expectations. Allen had not only succeeded at Georgetown, he had transformed it. The university was now known not just for academic excellence, but for its commitment to giving chances to students who might not fit the traditional mold. Allen proved that diversity isn't just about being fair, Thompson said. It's about being excellent. When you bring different perspectives together, you create something stronger than what any one perspective could achieve alone. Allen's story became a blueprint for how institutions could embrace diversity while maintaining excellence. His journey from too street to beloved Georgetown legend demonstrated the power of second chances and looking beyond surface appearances. This degree represents more than academic achievement, Allen said in his graduation speech. It represents the power of believing in someone when no one else will. It represents Georgetown values that I've carried throughout my life. Allen's professional career brought MVP awards and Hall of Fame recognition, but he always pointed back to Georgetown as the foundation of his success. The university that had been reluctant to admit him became the place where he discovered who he really was. Georgetown taught me that being different isn't a weakness, Allen said. It's a strength. They taught me you don't have to change who you are to succeed. You just have to be the best version of who you are. Today, Allen Iverson's jersey hangs in the Georgetown arena, but his real legacy is broader. He changed how one of America's most prestigious universities thought about diversity, excellence, and second chances. He proved that sometimes the people who seem least likely to succeed are exactly the ones who can achieve the most extraordinary things. If this story inspired you to believe that everyone deserves a chance to prove themselves, regardless of their background, Hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who needs to hear that they belong wherever they want to be. Remember, being different isn't a limitation, it's your greatest asset.